Spiderman Far From Home will be out very, very soon all around the world, but it is already out in China, and it has made over $35 million on its opening day. It got around about $3 million on its midnight screening, and it's gotten over $32 million so far for Friday, which isn't quite finished yet, so it may go up a little bit over this $35 million total. Now, if you look back to 2017 when Spider-Man Homecoming was out in China, it got $21 million on its first day. So we've got about $35 million here for this film, $21 million for the previous film. So that's a fairly good sign. It's over a 50% increase for its opening day money and only a 2-year gap between when the two films were released. The total worldwide box office for Spider-Man Homecoming was $880 million, and $545 million of that was from the foreign market. So it's a really good sign that the Chinese opening day had a 50% increase, but you can't read too much into that yet. So the buzz around the film's fairly good. It should have a good opening weekend in the US domestic market, but as always, it really depends on whether or not the film's any good as to what kind of legs we can read into it. So it's really early right now to say that it'll earn more than this $880 million, but it's a really good sign that in China at least it's got a nice first opening day. Obviously there'd be much worse news if the opening weekend or the opening day in China was lower than what the Spider-Man Homecoming number was. So what sort of records, if any, are we looking at for Spider-Man Far From Home? And what will this do for the Avengers Endgame box office? Will we see an increase for the Avengers Endgame box office? Will it be able to beat Avatar? Or will this really do nothing at all? Spider-Man Far From Home is opening on a Tuesday, so here are the Tuesday box office records from the US domestic market. We've got Star Wars Force Awakens in the number 1 place. It did not open on a Tuesday. It just had an absolutely ridiculous run. And it got $37 million. That is the record right there. The Amazing Spider-Man, that did open on a Tuesday. It got $35 million. That's the second biggest film ever for a Tuesday. Avengers Endgame, number 3. And then Star Wars Force Awakens back with its second Tuesday. That is the 4th biggest Tuesday ever. And there are some more Star Wars The Force Awakens in the biggest Tuesdays ever. It's 3rd Tuesday and so on. So Star Wars The Force Awakens, absolutely ridiculous box office run. But somewhere in there is what we're looking at. If it's gotten $35 million or more in China, it's very feasible to say that it could do the same or more in the US domestic market. So as always, it'll probably have some advanced screenings on the Monday, so they'll probably be added into the Tuesdays just to give it a little bit of an extra hand getting over the record. But again, if it can get more than $35 million in China, it's very feasible it can get more than $37 million in the US domestic market. So we might be looking at the biggest Tuesday ever. Now, if it isn't the biggest Tuesday ever, it should definitely be way up here. Again, because it got $35 million in China, it definitely has to be somewhere here in the top 10, probably in the top 3. So I haven't really seen any predictions yet from anywhere as to what they think the opening day will actually do for Spider-Man in the US domestic market, but I think at this stage it's pretty safe to say that that number 1 position for Star Wars The Force Awakens is under threat, if not guaranteed to get beaten, if we get any kind of performance like we've just had from China. And for some other records, here's a list of the top 10 box office openings for non-Friday starts in the US domestic market. So the number 1 film right now for a non-Friday start was Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. It got $108 million. Number 2 was Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, also of $108 million. And number 3 is Shrek 2, also with $108 million. Might need to check on those figures to see if they all are really $108 million. But that is the record right now for films open that didn't open on an actual Friday. And number 4 there, more proof that you get a good amount of money with hype over the opening, but then if the film isn't very good, then you get some real trouble in the box office. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls, terrible film. Opened up to $100 million and 4th biggest open ever for a non-Friday open. So it's really difficult to tell if it can do anything like this $108 million. It'll get a good opening day. The Tuesday will be very good. The Wednesday and the Thursday will probably drop off a fair bit, and then the Friday will probably be very good again. The Friday, I assume, will be worse than the Tuesday, but the Friday will probably be better than the Wednesday and the Thursday. So all up, the $108 million, that might be a little bit difficult to do because it's opening up on the Tuesday. But if you look at all the records there, none of those actually opened on a Tuesday as well. So if you look for a like for like, the best film that actually opened on a Tuesday was number 15 here, Transformers, and it got $70 million. So that's maybe more in line with what it perhaps could do. It could probably beat what Transformers did there. And the second best Tuesday ever is number 23. That's what The Amazing Spider-Man actually did. So I think they're the 2 numbers really to look at to see if it can beat those. Can it do better than what The Amazing Spider-Man did, which I think it probably should be able to? And will it be able to become the best Tuesday open and beat Transformers with its $70,000. And the other interesting thing to look at in relation to the Spider-Man Homecoming box office is what kind of effect, if any, will it have on the Avengers Endgame box office. Avengers Endgame is being re-released, that's what they're calling it, this weekend. Here's what an advertisement near me says about what the actual film is. They're calling it Avengers Endgame bonus content. So that's the actual title of the film as they're actually calling it. And it says it includes 8 minutes of extra content. After devastating events, the universe is in ruins. Spoilers. With the help of remaining allies, the Avengers assemble once more in order to undo Thanos' actions and restore order to the universe. So, I don't think that's very clear what it means by 8 minutes of extra content. My understanding from what I've read is it's all after the post-credit scene. That doesn't exactly say that there. I'm sure that's what it is. It's all after the post-credit scene. But that to me seems a little bit vague. If I read that and didn't know anything else, I might think there's 8 minutes of extra footage in the movie itself, which I don't believe is what it is. But nonetheless, they are calling it Avengers Endgame bonus content, so it has a slightly different title. I looked around a little bit at a few different places, and from what I can tell, there's not any extra screens getting put on for Endgame, which I think is what their actual plan was. I assume that they want to do this little special re-release, obviously to increase the money to get some more people to watch it so it can beat Avatar, but also in the hopes that because it's kind of new and newish, theaters will put it in more screens so that when Spider-Man's out, Endgame will also be available and get a bit of an extra boost there. Whereas if Endgame isn't on any screens, people that see Spider-Man might feel like seeing another MCU movie, but you won't be able to because it's such an old movie now, it's not really being shown much. So I assume that's really the key part of their plan here to beat Avatar, is to get it increased in a number of theaters. Here, for example, is the big AMC Empire 25 in New York City, which has got a heap of screens there. It's only showing in 5 sessions on this Saturday. So it's got the same amount of sessions for Avengers Endgame. It's what they got for Men in Black International and for what they've got for John Wick 3 Parabellum. So it's essentially not showing much at all. So people may want to see Endgame, but it's not really going to be available at all. One of the theaters near me has got 1 session for it showing. That's it on each day. So they're not even bothering to have it running on a whole screen all the time. They've just got 1 session. This is on a multiplex of like 8 screens. So, they've got more newer films they think will make the money. Doesn't seem to be a lot of buzz and a lot of talk about how much extra money this will actually earn. I haven't really seen any predictions from anywhere saying this is how much extra this will generate. It actually looks like it's fallen on deaf ears and isn't going to do much at all. But we'll look at the box office and we'll see actually if it has too much of an effect. So here are the actual raw numbers here. We have Endgame on the left, Infinity War on the right, and the green figures down the bottom of the Endgame section, that's my predicted numbers going forward. So I've got up till Wednesday here, so I haven't got Thursday's figures on here yet. They're not quite released yet. They'll be out pretty soon, but these have got the Wednesday figures. So day 62 is the Wednesday we've just had, and Endgame got $266,000 then, and Infinity War got $346,000 there. And as I've said in quite a few of my videos by now, looking at Endgame, it's getting around about 75% of the money Infinity War's gotten for maybe the last month. So it is pretty predictably earned just a bit less. It stayed on track, but earned, as I said, about 3/4, about 75% of the money that Infinity War's got. And so Infinity War got $345,000 for Thursday, which means if Endgame's going to get 75% of that, that's the $258,000 I have there, the first green number there for day 63. And then for the weekend coming up, if nothing had changed, if there wasn't this special edition or what I call bonus content edition coming up, it looked like it was going to get about $329,000 for Friday, or $330,000. So that's the main thing to look at is it going to get a lot more money than this $330,000 for Friday? And then again, $460 for Saturday, $360 for Sunday, $216 for Monday, and then the important figure down the bottom there, that's when Spider-Man Homecoming is being released. Will we see any kind of increase on day 68? So again, the bottom figure there, that's Tuesday. That's when Spider-Man Homecoming is out in the US domestic market. Is it going to get this $295,000 I'm predicting right now, which I think is a pretty accurate figure to get. Is it going to get an increase because of this bonus content? So will we see an increase on the Friday from this $329,000 I'm predicting right here? And again, these aren't my predictions, what I think it'll get. This is what I think it would have gotten if there wasn't this bonus content. I have no idea how much money it's going to earn with this bonus content thing. If it's going to have a massive increase, it's not going to have an increase at all. Are people just going to stay away from it and a bit disgusted by the whole money grab, or whatever's going to happen? So I think these figures are pretty accurate if this wasn't happening. And then again, the Tuesday figure, that's the number without Spider-Man Homecoming coming out, if you like. So Spider-Man Homecoming is coming, not Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home, that is coming out on Tuesday. So what kind of effect will that have on Endgame? But as I just previously shown, there's not a lot of screens of Endgame on it right now. So it may be well and good that perhaps some people will want to see it one last time, or after seeing Spider-Man decide to see Endgame, or vice versa. Maybe they think they'll watch Endgame before they watch Spider-Man again, maybe for the first time. But there's not a lot of sessions going around, so it's not that easy to go and see it. Now, if you do have a session on, you've probably got to pick your seats. I'm sure it won't be busy and you get a really good seat in the middle. But there's probably not going to be that many screenings available unless you go to a very large multiplex somewhere. To beat Avatar, it looked to me like Endgame needed to double the amount of money it was going to earn from here on out in the total global box office. It needed to basically double the money I think it looked like it was headed to earn. So again, if we can just look at the US market needs to double, and obviously international needs to double to beat Avatar. I think it's going to get about $330,000 on Friday if there wasn't this special version. So are we going to look at a number twice as big as that? And if we do get a number twice as big as that, if it does get $660,000, that's still probably not enough, because historically when a film's been re-released, if that's what you want to call this, it gets a lot of upfront money. So people see it the opening weekend, and then after that it really dies quickly compared to a normal film. So it really needs to get more than double the amount of money to be in with a shot to beat Avatar. So that's the main thing to look at. Again, $330,000, that's what I think Endgame was going to get on Friday. Can it get something like $1 million on Friday? If it gets $1 million on Friday, I think it's back in the game and it could maybe beat Avatar. If it can't get $1 million on Friday, then it's probably been a big waste of time actually re-releasing this. Yeah, they'll earn a little bit extra money probably, but I don't know if it's really worth the desperation that this will look if it fails. Okay, if it works, then I guess it's a genius plan and you've got the number one film, and who can really fault their dirty tactics if that's what you want to call them. But if it doesn't work, it does look a little bit like desperation. So once again, $35 million in the Chinese opening day for Spider-Man Far From Home. Can it get more than $37 million on the US open day to become the biggest Tuesday ever? Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.